You can hear my voice. Thank you. How did we do on the warm-up today, yeah? Yes? No? Okay, how about the first one, the merge sort? Well, merging two sorted arrays. Yeah? Okay, great. So, I'm not going to rewrite it because I rewrote it yesterday, but we can look at the solution to yesterday, which looked like this. So, to remind us of what's going on here, we are creating an output array. We are continuing while our arrays have a length. We are going to keep comparing that very first element in each array for whichever one is smaller. The smallest one is going to be shifted out and pushed into our output array. Right? By the time we get down to line 28, we'll have three arrays. We'll have our output array, which will have some number. We'll have an array, then we'll have our original two arrays. One of those will probably have at least one number left over because the other one was shorter. The other array is going to be empty, right? So in order to, we don't care about the empty array, but since we don't know which one is which, we are using the, what kind of operator here? Spread operator, booyakasha, right? The spread operator in order to make sure that everything gets spread. So a little bit of a reminder of how we can think about the spread operator in a couple different circumstances. We talked about a function that takes in some like random number of arguments. And we said that if we put a spread operator in front of this, it's as if we're magically drawing the brackets around it. And then we talked about if we know something is an array and we do the spread operator in front of that, it's as if we're magically removing those brackets, right? That's how you kind of can think about it. Just keep, if it's already an array, it becomes just loose arguments. If it's loose arguments, it becomes an array, right? The yin and the yang. So in this example, we are wrapping the whole thing in one array because we do want an array back, but we've turned output into like these loose arguments. We're turning whatever is in array 1 into these loose arguments. And again with array 2, we're turning those into like these loose arguments. Any questions on that? All right, rock and roll. So let's look at these code word problems. First one. I'm going to pull one up here. I think I already solved it, so I'm going to just delete what I wrote. Or hang on, maybe I can like move this screen. Nice. All right, let's blow this up. All right. So there was some difficulty just even understanding what this problem was asking. Right, but how did we do overall? Thumbs up, thumbs down, side. Okay, so mostly negative reaction. Okay, so if we're looking at it, we have a function that is taking in a number and then some number that we don't know of callbacks or functions, right? So that's the first thing we should think about. So we know that the first argument is the number. So I'm going to go ahead and write num. Okay, it's in there. And the second argument is what?
Function. The spread.
Right, so we know it's a bunch of functions, but we don't know how many. So I'm just going to do dot, 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 and I'm going to make it args, even though I recognize each one is an argument of that as a function. Okay? So now I've essentially turned this into a number and an array of functions. So then it says, the function will return the value, which is this 5, right, that results from the first parameter being used as a parameter for all the accepted parameters in turn. So that means 5 is going to go into double the value. That's going to give us back 10. We're going to use that 10 as the argument to add 1 to the value, and that should give us 11.
So it's a function with a function.
Well, it's an array of callbacks that we're going to use. So we need to use all the callbacks. So what does that kind of sound like we might need to do? A loop, yeah. Nilbur says a loop. Do we agree with Nilbur?
Yes.
Always. And so we're going to say args dot for each. And each one of these elements is really what? It's a function, right? So I'm just going to make that an fn to represent that I am talking about a function. And what needs to happen? Marvin? That's right. So I'm going to say num. We're going to reassign num's value to be whatever comes back from function and pass in the num argument. Anything we need to do at the very end? Return, yeah. And what do we want to return? No. Okay. So let's go ahead and run the sample tests. Did not pass. So I think this is an issue with the num. So I'm just going to change it and declare a variable like let val equal num. And then I'm going to go ahead and update my everywhere it says num to be val, because I think it might just not allow me to change it. We'll see.
If you
Interesting.
if you just click on that, it will work.
Put,
Oh, you gotta go down. Yeah.
oh, so it does work. Weird. So the test, their tiny run samples don't make any sense, but the code itself does work. Okay. Great. Nice. Thank you, Kong, for recognizing that.
So even before you check the black bar, you still use it now.
Excellent. Any questions on how that's working? None? We all feel good? We could reproduce this? Okay, cool. Well, why not? Okay, let's try the next one. It's called duplicate arrays. So, go in here, paste it. We can try this kata again. So if the method has duplicate argument values, we want to return true. Okay, so this is taking in how many arguments?
1.
Really? Looks like it takes in a bunch of arguments. Under the examples, it takes in multiple. How many? Unknown, right? So what do we need to use? Right? We have to use the spread operator because it's an unknown number of arguments. Right? Remember that line, because that line is important, because I've seen people already where it says, hey, your function takes 2 arrays, and I've seen people try to already use a spread operator for those 2 arrays. If it tells us the net amount of arguments, we don't need a spread. It's all about the unknown. So I'm going to go ahead up here and say args. Sorry if that's a little tiny. Let's see if I can make it bigger. There. And then what can be our overall approach? Any ideas? I don't know.
What I did a folder, and inside the folder I put a conditional.
Tell me more, yeah?
Then I put
What's like the approach though? You don't have to tell me the code.
I put a conditional in there that instead of condition I put a index.
Okay, index of.
Yeah, index of, and then I put it to equal I.
Okay.
And then I return the true or false. true, I'll return true, and then it's false.
Nice. Does it work? Okay. So to reiterate what Henry said and to try to make it more English and less code, right? That's not like we want to just practice speaking about it in regular terms, right? We're going to iterate through this array. For every element, we can check its index. Like using the index of method, we can find out what index it has. If it's a different index than the index we're currently on, then we know there's a duplicate. If we've made it throughout the entire array, without ever doing that, we'll know that there are no duplicates. Right? So let's translate that. So we'll do a for loop because I want to be able to end prematurely. For let element of args, we can do a for of loop. And then we're going to do this condition where we're going to say, hey, if args dot index of element, if this doesn't equal our I, well, we didn't do an I, so we should probably rethink this, right? So let I equal 0, I is less than args dot length, I plus plus, and I'm going to go ahead and make an element args at I, so it's a little bit more readable for me. So if args at index I does not equal I, then we know we've had a duplicate somewhere, and we can return false. If we've made it all the way through and we've never returned false, then it's safe to assume that we have no duplicates. So we can return true. We'll run our sample tests. They all fail. Oh, they're all inverted. Wait. They want it equal to I? That doesn't make sense. Is this what you have, Henry? What you said works?
I didn't set up a variable.
Yeah, but yours just says args at I here?
Yeah, it's args index at I equals to I. Then it does not equal to I, return false. So instead of I had I.
Yeah, that's what we had. Interesting.
Alright.
Yes.
Look at the result. The result is all opposite of the.
Yeah.
I see
So
that.
you want to return true.
But that just doesn't make any sense. Isaiah, you got an idea?
Well, I put each element into an object and then check if that object at that key existed.
Okay.
And if it did, then it returned true. If it went through without it existing, I returned false.
Did it run for the attempt?
Okay?
Did it work when you did attempt?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. I don't think we'll want to use every.
Yeah. But instead of if, instead of the no.
You're saying args at I?
No, you got it right though. So because it's just put the and then the only thing that I had different was in the return. You have return false. I had return true, and then outside of the for loop I had return false.
Oh, because we want to return true if there are duplicates, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. That's kind of the opposite of what I was thinking. I was thinking of no duplicates. Yeah, so if there are duplicates, which is in the instance that args does not have that element, at that specific index. Then we can return true because that means we do have duplicates. Okay. Right, there are other answers. Isaiah talks about storing things in an object. Right, that's a very cool answer as well. I know we haven't really learned these yet, but this is also a really good opportunity to use sets. Or you could potentially say something like this. Remember, a set is kind of like an object, but without the values, it's just the keys. So I could just say like let set equal new set and pass an arg. And then I could just return set.size equal to args.length. I think, or maybe it's not equal to. Not equal to. There we go. Right, so that's even shorter way to write that, but we haven't really dove into sets yet. We've just touched them here and there. I'm not going to refactor that. Well, we could just like put that. Okay, whatever. Questions on any of these? All right, awesome. Let's dive into some new stuff today. All right, so I'm just going to close these up. And we can move from here. So we're finally entering Unit 2. Victor. CD into Unit 2. Whoops. Okay, and we're going to Victor HTML intro. CD into HTML intro. Touch. So now, instead of running index.js, I'm going to write index.html. Whoa. Yeah, I'm recording. Thank you. He's like the next Spielberg. Okay, so let's go ahead. Full size this sucker. Code. Index.html. And we'll see this, right? So it looks pretty similar just from randomly looking at it, yeah? I'm looking for notes that I have on the subject. Just want to make sure I follow this in a logical order. Okay. So, does anybody know what HTML stands for? What is it? Hypertext markup language, right? So this is like something that's really hyper, right? When you write this, you have to get super pumped up, kind of like JavaScript. You gotta get hyper. You gotta get ready to text. We all love texting, right? Markup sounds like makeout. Everybody loves it. And then language. That's what we're speaking, right? So hypertext markup language. So the first thing we gotta learn about is something called a tag. So something to note is every time you go to a website, like even in this last example where we're looking at Code Wars, which we can't see right now, but let's go to like, actually I think I have a better website. Right? When we go to like this New York Times site, where did it go? There it is. It's taking its time. Right? This is just an article from the New York Times, right? When you're reading this page that you're seeing this is called on the browser. You're seeing this is a combination of HTML. That is the specific elements and like little things you see on the page. And CSS. That's something we'll get more into a little bit later, but that's essentially like the design of how things are supposed to look. And then we also have it. JavaScript is what we'll eventually end up using with our pages to make them interactive. So when you just have HTML, it's not particularly interactive. Same with CSS. Although there's some pretty good CSS animations now, which didn't used to be a thing as much. Okay, so let's just like create our first HTML document. All right. So it starts with the words. I think you have to write document, right? So really, most browsers, if you say HTML and then hit tab, it does stuff for you. This one, it doesn't seem like it does that much. So I'm just going to write it from scratch. So the first thing I'm going to do is create my first tag, and it just says doc type HTML. This is telling the computer to interpret this whole thing that we're about to write as HTML. Okay, it's just a very special declaration. Okay, shouldn't have to think too much about this. This is just like always there. The next tag we need is HTML. So the way we write our tag is we write a less than sign, the name of the tag, and then a greater than sign, right? Or a left angle bracket, right angle bracket. And then every time you have a tag, with the exception of the doc type one, it's going to have a closing tag. So it's going to be the open tag, which we just see right there at the top. Let me get a little bigger. And our closing tag, which is the one we see on line 5. Notice that the closing tag has that slash before the name of the tag. Right? So this is just a HTML tag. Questions on that so far? Mm-hmm.
The first line, does it matter if it's in capital? Or when you
Yeah, it's supposed to look just like that. Although I think it probably works fine without it. But yep.
What's the point of the tag?
Which one?
The HTML and the slash HTML.
Oh, okay. So everything on the page is created by these tags. It's actually considered to be the DOM. It's called the Document Object Model, DOM. And it is a tree, but none of that really should be too important right now to you. It's just that it's the idea that every single element you see on a page exists because of a tag. And I can prove that a bit here. So when you open Chrome and you go to a website, we have access to something called Developer Tools. It's Command-Option-I should open it on your computer. You should follow along. You can also right-click and do Inspect. But it's a lot cooler to just know that it's Command-Option-I. Right? These are called the Developer Tools, or Chrome Tools. This is an area where you'll spend a lot of your life. Okay, you will live in the Chrome toolbox, yeah? For a long time, Kong. Were we all successful at opening this, yeah?
Yeah.
Command-Option-I. So as you can see, there's a few things here. See if I can make this a little bigger. Okay, so feel free to click through this. You're not going to break anything. But we have our profiler, our components. This kind of talks about app content. We don't have to really worry too much about it. Redux, this talks about a different type of technology that we may learn down the line. Ad block, this is, I guess, something to do with my ad blocking. Audits, the security. Application, this is something where like cookies can sometimes be stored. If you've ever been to a site and it like remembers that you're there. Have you ever seen it where it says like this website stores cookies? That happens in here. You can like check out your storage and see things that it's keeping track of. Talks about memory, performance. This is kind of a cool area, but not. This isn't really our site, so that I guess they've blocked a lot of it. Network talks about what kind of requests things get made when the page gets loaded. Sources, I don't know. It's like all the different files and codes that make up a site. Then we have our console. This is kind of cool. Did we recognize the word console from anywhere? Where? Console.log, right? If you write console.log in your code that gets put into the browser, this is where it shows up. In the console. Yeah, a lot of things are blocked, right? I can run code in here. I can clear this with my command Q. Right? I can write regular code here. If I wanted to check things out, I can write my functions here. Doubler, right? Takes in a number. Enter, return, num times 2. It's not like a great area to code because if you mess up, it's kind of like a pain in the butt. But right, I can like create things. Let me see if I can enlarge that. So that's kind of cool, right? And then where we're going to be spending today, and a lot of this beginning of this unit, is in elements. So elements are the things we're seeing on this page right now. You see it starts with this document, doc type HTML. I guess they're having theirs in lowercase, interesting. Right, it has the HTML tag, and it has a head tag, which we're going to see about. We can open it. It should have script tags in there. Script tags are what makes the code run. Meta tags, this is like information about the website. This is like things that like Google crawlers will look at and stuff to try to do better search engine optimization. And then we've got just lots of metadata. There's probably a title tag in here somewhere. Title tag refers to the stuff up here. Lots of metadata for this. Holy tamale. Holy. Oh. Links, this has to do with CSS and styling, which we'll learn more about in a bit, right? You don't have to have this all memorized yet. Just by the end of today. No, just kidding. And then we enter into the body. At one point we entered into the body, and we have all these things. So if I wanted to really inspect, is what it's called, an element, I can click on this at the very far left of my screen. You see this little arrow inside of a thing. Oh, there's also a little phone image. This is how you make something look like it's on a mobile. Anyway, you'll learn more about that later. But we can click on this. And with this, we can actually highlight different elements in the code. And you can see the different tags. Right? So this is a span tag. This is this paragraph tag. You can see it matches down here where what I'm highlighting. So this is a P tag, ID, article summary, right? So let's go back up to this one, right? And I can like click. If I click on it, it will automatically select the tag in the code here. And I can change things. So Google to buy Fitbit for $2.1 billion. I can change the code and check it out. So I can say, oh, well, Corey to buy Fitbit for $5. Right? And when I hit enter, we see I've changed the website. Right? Thank you. Yeah. I'm also retiring today. Corey to buy Fitbit for $5. So that's pretty cool. Fake news. Right? And we can look at other things, right? So the deal represents an aggressive attempt by Google. Well, sounds like an aggressive attempt for me. The deal represents an aggressive attempt by Corey to bolster its lineup of hardware products and banging cool stuff. Right? And it looks like a real website. Because it is, right? So you'll probably notice that I'm changing this, and your computer, it's not changing, right? So I'm not making permanent changes. I am just seeing and adapting things so that I can see what it looks like. So this is all about the tags. If I select tags in general here, like this is like this whole background. Let's see, it's this big div. We see here we have these styles. These are style. This has to do with CSS, which we'll learn more about. But we can add our own things. So I can make the background pink, right? And now I have a little pink thing around my name, right? I could also go ahead and make the color green. So, well, that changed something. Not exactly what I wanted. I'll change the color. So this already has these things. I can unclick things, click things. If I want to change the color of that text, I can write the word color, hit tab to move to the style property, green. So now I have Corey buy Fitbit for $5 in green, right? I can uncheck it, it'll go back to what it was. So this is how you practice to style your own websites, is you often style it in here, try to find what exactly works, then you take that and you actually put it into your code. Right, so there's a lot of stuff you'll actually do in this console, but you can see that it's made up of all of these tags. Okay, so back to where we were. HTML tag is just like the starting tag, and then we have our head tag. Let's see if I can just do that. Nice. Head is where different things can live, like all that metadata. Script tags. Script is the tag we're going to use to run our JavaScript at some point. Right? Script, JavaScript, that can kind of help you. And style sheets are hooked in with links. Link tags. And we also have our title tag. And the title tag is what you see in this spot up here, right? At the very top. You know how we have that little time sign that says we can buy stuff, or Google's buying it? We can go ahead and write a title tag up here, so we can say like first HTML project. So if we want to open this and see what we've built so far, we can enter, I guess I have to enter, oh, it's like, it's opened in a weird spot, my code. Well, I'll just write open. I think I can just write open index.html, and it's going to go ahead and open this document for me. Right? This is what we created. We can see that it says in the title tag, first HTML project, right? And the rest is blank because we haven't actually done anything. But how do I open my developer tools? What? Command Option I. Well, you are non-Mac, yeah. Okay, that one's for the Macs then. Right, we can see the elements here are exactly the same as what we've just coded, right? We have our HTML, our head tag, our title tag, our body. It automatically put in a body because we just don't have one yet. But the body is where all the stuff that you see is going to go. All right, so let's go ahead and add a body to it. So outside of the head, we're going to write body, right? Opener and closer. And I'll write, this is, or I'll say check out my body, right? Go back to here. We can refresh our page, and now we see that there's a tiny little check out my body, right? Up there in the corner. We have to get pumped up. Are we following along, yeah? Okay, cool. So these are the main tags. If you want to have a lot of text, right? So let's say we say like, okay, we'll go back to here, and we have check out my body. This is the story of Arnold, the greatest bodybuilder. And then we do another paragraph that's like, I was also the governor, okay, of California. Call me the governator. Right? Something just that he would probably say. Right? We can also just throw a quick like, get to the chopper. Get to the chopper. Okay. So we see how I've spaced all this code out. That's really the point of this, besides just the fact that we love Arnold. Or at least I do. But when I refresh the page here, we'll see it's all been jammed into this one line, right? So that kind of sucks. That's not ideal behavior, right? So never fear, there's a tag is here, right? The new tag that we can talk about is called paragraph, right? The paragraph tag, which is the letter P, right? P for paragraph. So if I wrap these in a P tag, so I'm just going to go P, and I'll put that in there, and I'll do it again with this one, and I'll just put it in here, right? These Command Option B, I think maybe makes my code prettier. There should be a way to make my code prettier. I'm not doing a good job with that. See, every time you're inside a tag, it needs to be nested just like your code. So let's fix that. So this is still inside a body. This is inside of the P tag. This is inside of the body. And then I'll put all of these just in one P tag because I think the point is made. So I'll say P tag. And we will put that in here. Okay. So now when we go back and we refresh our page, we'll see it's broken into those chunks because these are our different paragraph chunks. The reason that these have these behaviors is this is actually a default styling that's built in. Eventually, we'll be able to set it up so we can get rid of all the defaults so that we have 100% control of what our code is doing. But for now, it's just the default is fun. Okay? Questions on the P? Anyone have the P? Okay. So along with the P tag, we also have heading tags. Right? For a header. You know, every website you've probably ever been on has like one big header at the front, at the very top. At least one. New York Times is a good example of that. When we went to here, we had like this Google to buy Fitbit, right? This is like the big header. Here, I'll refresh it so that it goes back to the original. And then this is like the second smaller header, right? So we can represent that in our code. I'm going to go ahead and back up to the top because headers generally are at the top. And I'm going to do a H1. So H1 being, this is the big one, the first one. And we're going to say Arnold's biography. And when we go back to our website and refresh, we get Arnold's biography. Okay, it automatically has made this text larger. Similarly, right, with every H tag, 1 is often a smaller. So there's H's 1 through, I think, 6. Each one gets smaller. So if I wanted to make another one that's not quite as big, but not too small, I'll do like an H3, and I'll say the story of Arnold. And when we go back, we refresh, and now we'll see this H3 tag. Pretty exciting. Pretty exciting. So there are a lot of tags. Okay? There's like nearly 100 different tags. We're definitely not going to go over all of them. That's, I think, obvious. But we should definitely know header tags. So that's H1 through H6, or 5. I don't know. You hardly ever use 6. You want to know paragraph tags. You want to know body, head, HTML, right? All of these tags we've talked about so far. You also want to know about a div tag. Div is just kind of the generic thing. So in HTML5, that's what we're currently in. It's called semantic HTML. And so the reason it's called semantic HTML is because there are tags that are named certain things. So if you're creating a form, you use what is called a form tag. If you're creating a footer, you use a footer tag. A header, you use a header tag. Okay? So there's all these like specifically named tags that say what they are. This is great for like accessibility and other purposes. But for now, you don't have to worry about too much of those. I mean, you should learn them as they're coming, right? As you need them, you'll learn them. But you should also know the div. The div is like really what HTML used to be all about before we had like really semantic HTML. Everything was just in a div. A div looks like this. This is my div. Divs, you'll see, will also be given their own line, just like the p tag. Right? You can't visually see much of a difference in there, but there is one in some of their behaviors, but not too much. It's more of what they're doing and what they're representing. Just want to do a couple more tags to be aware of. We'll often see what's going on here. Great.